Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu was found guilty of terrorism charges brought against him by the federal government and sentenced to life imprisonment. Justice Omoto Showa, delivering his ruling, found Kanu guilty on all 7-count terrorism charges, including engaging in acts of terrorism, belonging to and leading a proscribed group, and threats to national cohesion. He also ruled that the separatist leader be kept in protective custody in any correctional center apart from the one in Kuje, Abuja. Of course, joining us more on this conversation, I have Chino Obiago, a lawyer, and of course, joining us virtually is are you right here with us right now, Chino?
No, I'm joining you virtually.
Oh, of course, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to establish your connection right there. And of course, I've got Dr. Ojikutu Adeni right here in the studio with me. Doctor, it's good to have you on the show this evening.
Thank you.
Now let me begin with you, Doctor, before I hit my virtual guest. Kanu had the chance to defend himself. Time was running out. As a matter of fact, resting the case on the prosecution, declaring having no case to answer without putting up a defense of any degree. Do you think he complicated the issue for himself from the very beginning?
Basically, if somebody is under that kind of challenge or situation, you'll be getting, legal advice, legal strategies. A lot of people will be doing legal anatomy on the issue on ground. So there is no one way to get freedom because there are layers of ideas and strategies. So, he had SAN Kanu Agabi, he had at some point.
Fantastic lawyers.
Fantastic lawyers. He has at some point the Edo Ozakube on his team. So, but when issues arises, a lot of advices and all that, so that affected. And what affected is that the lawyers in our ad would be giving him advice. He too has his own personal, agenda and what he tends to achieve. So if there is no coercion, he would tend to go with probably what he feels is the best. So the point at which he was supposed to come up with his defense, that he was thinking, okay, it could be a strategy.
Right.
That if he does not come up with that, he can use political, all the strategy at which he was aggressive, it could be a strategy.
Okay.
You might never tell. So, and some people might have advised him that use political strategy or political way of getting out of this challenge rather than use the legal means. So you can never fault any of these styles.
Okay.
But, from normal layman perspective, from the angle of the law, there are arguments that I've seen that he could, if he had stayed with his earlier team, he would probably have been able to move out of the crisis.
Right, okay.
But, unfortunately, the case is where it is. He's been, convicted.
Thank you very much. Now, Chino Obiago, quickly, now, what were the key pieces of evidence that led the court to convict Nnamdi Kanu on all 7 counts?
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for having me. I have not read the record of proceedings. I'm not part of the trial. But of course, if the court said the prosecution proved his case on all 7 counts, of course, we as a lawyer, I would assume that the court has evaluated all the evidence, even though it was a one-sided evidence. It's a case in which the defendant considered the trial as a political trial and not a legal trial. That's why he tried to use it, even though not successfully, for a political standoff. But having said that, until one looks at the weight of evidence and case adduced by prosecution, it would be wrong to make any assumption or to make any assertion on the basis of the conviction. In any event, the court has not said so, and of course, there's a presumption of correctness until matter goes to appeal, if he wants to appeal the conviction and the sentence.
All right, now, as SAN, do you believe the trial process met international standards of fairness and transparency from your point of view?
Well, the Nigerian Constitution provides for right to fair hearing. And the right to fair trial includes right to counsel. When the defendant opted to dismiss his counsel to defend himself, of course, it's his constitutional right to choose to defend himself, except if it's a capital offense, like an offense punishable by death. Then Nigerian law requires that he must be defended by counsel. But he's charged under Prevention of Terrorism Act, the maximum sentence of which is life imprisonment. So, that requirement that he must be assigned a lawyer doesn't apply. But having chosen to defend himself, it is a constitutional right to do so. But having said that, I think being a political contest, I was thinking that the government should have taken a political position. This matter could have been solved politically because remember the court had earlier held that his extradition from Kenya was wrongful. And if that decision was, handed out by the appellate courts, I think that should be an indication that there's a need to find a political solution to Nnamdi Kanu's debacle rather than a legal one. Because as it is now, it has actually complicated the security issues in the Southeast. So I think the government would have opted for a more political solution to the problem.
All right, Dr. Dini, very quickly, let me understand, what does this judgment really mean for the future of IPOB as a movement?
Yeah, the judgment has actually, the judge pronounced that IPOB is a proscribed, organization, and nobody can publicly say, I am a member of IPOB. Else, he will be going against the law, or judicial precedents can caught up with you, and you'll be declared being a member of an legal association. However, going forward, I think what we should do as a people is to look at a point whereby we're going to have a middle ground, whereby we'll not ordinarily look at, all that has happened, but we'll look at a Nigerian that all of us will come together to solve some of these problems. To that extent, everybody is saying that let's look for a point of convergence, whereby we limit the divergence that we've got, and we look for a middle ground. Fine, when justice is served, some people that has lost their family members, police officers, military officers that has lost their family members, they are human beings as well. Going forward, the government can try as much as possible, under Section 175, subsection 1, the president has the prerogative of mercy, whereby he can forgive anyone anyone that is committing any offense in Nigeria.
So meaning all hope is not lost?
But all hope is not lost.
All right.
Even at that, the conduct should be reviewed by the consultants and, Nnamdi Kanu himself, so that even if political solution wants to come, the attitude will not, pull people back from trying to help mediate, and we have a united and a Nigeria default of crisis.